Today we're going to be drawing a picture of our house, our real house. And whenever we draw anything real, it's important to pay close attention to the details. It might even be worth it to take a really close look at your house just to see if there's anything that maybe you never noticed before. The top of the house has a large and small triangle next to each other. There's a circle on the front of the garage. This window has a line of bricks across the top, black shutters, and a lot of tiny squares on the window. To complete this drawing, we're going to need a pencil, an eraser, and something to color with. So before we start, just remember we're going to be using shapes. So the first part of my house that I see is a great big rectangle, and that rectangle has a triangle on top. A lot of folks see this, and this is what they think of when they think of house. If you were going to draw a house in 2 seconds, you'd probably draw a rectangle with a triangle on top. But there's more. Next to the rectangle, there is a taller rectangle. And now we can start drawing smaller shapes. So on this rectangle are 2 squares. In the middle of this triangle is a circle. Behind this triangle is a trapezoid, but we're only going to see part of it because it overlaps a little. On this larger rectangle, there is a small rectangle for the front door. The door is a window, which is a rectangle. So there are lots of rectangles. At the top of this rectangle is another triangle. And in front of this triangle is another triangle. So there's like a little triangle inside of a bigger triangle. Above this square window is another square window. And above this rectangle door is a rectangle window. So far I've drawn all of this house with just rectangles, a few triangles, and a circle. Oh yeah, and a trapezoid in the back. Those are the basic shapes of the entire house. So before I get into smaller details, I want to start adding some of the big shapes to the rest of the paper. And that's going to be things like bushes, trees, or even a fence. So first, on this side of the house, there is a large bush that's about as tall as the garage, and it's kind of like an oval or an egg shape. On this side, there are a lot of little bushes, and they're almost like squares. They're a little rounder than squares though. And the one on the end is a little bit larger. These 2 squares are the garage, and in front of the garage is a driveway, which basically looks like a trapezoid. So a trapezoid looks kind of like a triangle if you cut the top of it off. So it's wide on the bottom, and it starts to get smaller towards the top. But before it turns into a triangle, we chop it off across. At the end of the driveway is a long sidewalk, which is just basically like a long, skinny rectangle. On this side of the yard is a tree. Now this is where you as the artist can take some creative license. That means make some creative decisions. So I'm basically drawing the way my house really looks, but sometimes you have to make changes to make the artwork look better. And one of those changes for me is to make this tree smaller, because if I drew the tree the actual size, it would cover up most of the house and you wouldn't even get to see it. So I'm deciding to make the tree a little bit smaller, maybe the way it looked a few years ago before it got so big. That way it only covers part of the house, which adds some interesting overlapping, but it doesn't cover up so much of the house that we can't even see it anymore. So I'm gonna draw this tree right here. Basically, it looks just kind of like a scribbly oval with a tree trunk on the bottom. All right. Back here, behind this is another bush. So there's a bush right there. And there's actually a fence back there. So the fence is basically just a rectangle, but it's behind everything else. So we only see part of it. So now I'm starting to move on to even smaller details. Behind the house is another tree. So another one of those scribbly looking ovals, but it's overlapping. So it comes out from behind the house. So just a little bit is poking out the top. On this very end, there is another bush, but it's shorter than the big oval one. It's a little bit shorter and not as oval. It's a little bit more square. And then the last thing I need to add is this house right here. So this is the next door neighbor's house, which is very similar to this house. It's got a tall rectangle with a triangle on top. And we only see a little bit of it. And then there's another tree behind everything and another fence. So these are the basic shapes to draw my house and the surrounding yard and the things that are on the outside edges. So I keep drawing until I get to the edges of the paper, and now it's time to color things in and, you know, erase parts that are overlapping and make it look really nice and neat. Here is the completed picture of my house. We started out with basic geometric shapes like squares, rectangles, and triangles. Remember, when you draw your house, it's going to look different than this. So don't draw my house, draw your house. The shapes might be different sizes. They may be in different places. And then start adding details. The details are what makes it look like your real house. Those are the things that people recognize when they look at it. And you can keep adding details as long as you would like. As you can see, I'm going back in there and I'm drawing some shadows underneath these bushes and trees to make them look real. Because every detail you add, all those details, they cooperate with each other. And when you're finished, they work together to show everybody that, hey, this is your house. See, because it's got that window that's in the front of your house, or that little circle thing above your garage. So I hope that your house drawing turned out the way you would like. Keep adding those details. Remember, the more you add, the better it will be. And I will see you next time. Bye.